Hello. Alright. Back. Alright, let's see if I can get this guy going. Have I been to any game industry events like E3? Well, I have not been to E3, but I do have my stuff signed up, so I may be going this year. I've been to PAX a couple of times, though. I went to Gamescom. That's about it. Gunwee, hello. But yeah, so it should be. I would have gone to E3 actually last year, except I'd gone to Australia to renew my visa, and then the entire U.S. consulate computer system went down for 2 weeks. So I was stuck in Australia. All things considered, it's not the worst place to be stuck, especially considering I was just hanging out with my parents. But yeah, that was fun. PAX is amazing. I really, really liked PAX. It was very cool. Plus, it's in Seattle, which is a lovely place to be. So that helps. But yeah, I've had a great time at PAX the couple of times I've been. How Ciliot can look in. Yes. I'm like, oh yeah, I know what that means. Sure, that's fine. I do have to be careful sometimes of not leaving stuff too much like that. And actually making sure I do work it out properly. Like, I'm pretty sure this perspective is not perfect, but whatever. Yeah, I'm trying to get like super sharp, like harsh shadows going, so like cutting it off. I really enjoy the way like harsh lighting, you can define forms so well with just like the shape of a shadow like this, without actually like the negative space in there. What, if anything, do I have trouble drawing? I mean, I think every time I have trouble drawing hands. I mean, people are just always a pain, right? Like, getting things right is never easy. And I guess it's sort of like cheating to be like, oh, I have trouble drawing that. And it's a little bit, but I feel like it's something that people know so well that you can't fudge it as much as you can some other things. So you have to basically, and it's such a big part of stuff. On a more general note, like I don't do as much landscape stuff as I should, so I probably like that is an area that I struggle with more, for sure. But it depends on what exactly it is that I'm trying to get done. I mean, I feel like I've gotten to a point where I don't necessarily like feel like I can't draw anything, but almost I know enough that almost everything, like I feel like I need improvement in almost all areas. I don't know. It's a bit of a cop-out, I guess. But I feel like I certainly don't feel like I've mastered anything. Except maybe the marine suit. Still a pain to draw though. Could they hand me any sort of concept, or do they play to our strengths? It's a little bit of both. I mean, there are not a lot of concept artists on our team, so we have like myself, Sammy, our art director, who does a bunch of our skin concepts as well, and then Peter Lee, who's basically our environment art concept artist. Though we have other people do some concepts on their own as well. Like for some people would do skin concepts, there are a couple of environment guys who would do their own concepts. But that's basically it. And so I do very little in the way of environment concept art. And then I think the character concept load is split between me and Sammy, and it's a little bit like playing to either of our strengths depending on which characters it is. Like I tend to do some more of the StarCraft stuff. He'll be more on the Warcraft side, but really it's more of a scheduling thing than anything else. So that's usually how that gets worked out. Who has the time? But I am in a general sense, I'm a character concept artist, so I do, it's heroes and skins and stuff. I do very little environment stuff. But I have, like, especially when Heroes was earlier in development, I did quite a lot of environmental concept art. Cutles, thank you very much. Including other teams, how many concept artists are there? Honestly, I don't actually know. Not a lot, certainly. I think the Warcraft team probably has the most. But and then there are a few who are like Illustrator-y. So like CDev has concept artists like Laurel. Would sort of count because she does a bit of that, but it's mostly more illustration. Team 4 has at least a few, especially on the environment side. But it's still not that many. I mean, it would be on maybe 20 across Blizzard. Though I feel like maybe there are more on cinematics that I'm not taking into account. I don't know, but that sounds about right across the game teams. That might even be too many. Honestly, we don't do enough. We don't do enough interdepartmental stuff, so I'm not really sure. Did I move to the US because of the job? Yes, I certainly did. Was it a hard decision? No, not really. I mean, it was scary. Although I didn't realize how scary it was until I actually did it, and then I was like, oh god, I should just turn around and go home again. Laurel is mostly working on, so she's on CDev. She does illustration work, and she has been working a lot, I believe, on their, like, 2D short things. A lot of, for Hearthstone, for example, like, she does a heap of that. And then posts, like... So I think that's the most of her stuff. Like, the Hearthstone stuff seems to take up most of her time, though she does a bit of everything, really. Where was I from originally? Australia. I'm from Australia. Yeah, no, she doesn't do a lot of videos. She's got at least one or two up, but yeah. I mean, I didn't see her work enough either, and I would work with her, technically. Oh, CDev. It's not called CDev anymore, anyway, I don't think. It's basically the department that does all of the marketing, like all the posters that you see at BlizzCon, that sort of thing. And then they help out all the other teams with, like... they do concept art for other teams. Like, I know they helped out with D3 for a while there. I know they helped out on the movie for a bit. And they help out cinematics. They've been doing... I don't know if it's been split into a separate-ish team now, but as a lot of, like, the Hearthstone cinematics have gone a little bit more 2D, and... sort of we did like the Lords of War and that sort of stuff. That's what they've been focusing on. Where can you find... Man, I don't see enough Way stuff, because he's not on CDev anymore either, so he's on Cinematics proper, so I have not seen a lot of his work. Yeah, we haven't updated Renee. I don't know, Sons of the Storm is like... gotten a little quiet. There is not a place for those sort of updates currently. I don't think Peter posts his stuff a lot. There are definitely a few other artists who work on the Hearthstone shorts. Laurel has a big part in it, I think. But they've got... Initially, it was CDev, but they do have more of it, or Cinematics sort of working it out, but they've got a bit more of a dedicated team for the 2.5D stuff now, these days. Okay, let's get this face going. Do most Blizzard illustrators have to know how to do those? No, not at all. I mean, we don't do... So I helped out on... I did help two Blizzard employees go to other departments. Was it like, you're coming with us now? A little bit of both. Departments... will go to like leads or producers about that stuff, and so for example I helped out on the Lords of War series for a couple of weeks, and that was like, I didn't know about that. I think they mentioned it to me, but it was obviously a request that went to like our production team, and they were like, is there time for that? And the same across for the other artists who helped out with that. And it's the same thing. Like, I'd done a few when I did the Naxxramas Hearthstone key art. That was the same thing there, where the Hearthstone team had checked with our team if I had the time to spend a few weeks on that. And like, yeah, okay, that works out. But back to the animation thing, like we did all the 2D art, but cinematics put it together, like the motion graphics part of it. So we still had to like know how we were setting things up to make sure that they could work with what we were giving them. But it wasn't a super difficult thing to set up. Yeah, I had a great time working on Lots of War. It was funny because Laurel definitely ended up. There are quite a few of us who went over to like help out, and I know that Laurel ended up like still finishing a lot of everything, just because they really wanted this like style to be consistent. But I think it definitely helped out that there were a lot of us working on it. Yeah, it was fun. Does management have problems with employees smoking cannabis if they have a prescription? I have no idea. I have not run into it myself. If there are openings, what happens if you see a concept artist pass through or apply? So it depends. I mean, it hasn't really happened so far that we don't have a position for it. It certainly hasn't happened that people have I mean, all right. So I'm not gonna say that because I'm not on the hiring team. I'm in interviews, but I certainly am not like on the front line where like resumes are passed through whenever someone applies or whatever. But there are definitely situations where we will hire people even if we're not. I mean, all right, so maybe it's not as much as it used to be, but I was like certainly in it. Basically, it happened to me. Like there was no concept artist position open on Team 1 when I got hired. It was basically they'd seen my work, and They really liked the work that I continued to be pumping out. And they basically sort of decided that, hey, we'll create a position here. The knocking was from the stream, because I clicked on that link, which I probably shouldn't have. Well, that worked, I guess. Anyway, yes, that was definitely a good compliment. Like, I was, so I haven't necessarily seen that like happen again, though. I haven't been in a position where we've had someone like apply like that. But it's not necessarily, it's a slow process too, right? And more often than not, it'll be someone who will apply eventually. Like Jimmy Shu, Art Doge, or whatever his name is on DeviantArt now. Like, I saw him doing, he's been doing fan art for like years and years and years as well, and it was like he was posting about being inspired by me and whatever, and eventually he applied and was like, yeah, we'll get you. This guy. So I feel like he was in a little bit of a similar situation to what I was. Like, he applied and did an art test and everything, and that was that. So it wasn't quite the same. But it was definitely like a fan art situation where we had seen him doing art and he was passionate and everything for a long time. And I mean, I had to do an art test and everything as well. It's not like they were just like, hey, you have a job. But long story short, I mean, concept artists are an awkward one because it's not a highly in demand. Like, even we are hiring quite a few. Like, I think we're looking for. All right, let me check before I go and spouting that. But I think we have some positions open for like character artists and stuff at the moment. But we don't have any. It's definitely a specific. God, how do we fucking get to? Yeah, so we've got a couple of character art positions open at the moment, but we don't have concept art. Like, it is by far the least, or like proportionally the fewest people on the team will always be concept artists because you need people to actually make stuff. I'm not feeling good about this guy. Ugh. This guy. What was like when I got started? Did they just like get me going, or did they check in a little more? They definitely checked in. Like, they don't just throw you in the deep end and expect you to be able to do everything right away. So that depends on the position you're hired for, and yeah, they definitely checked in more often than other people to make sure that I was like getting the hang of the tool set and everything. Though the first stuff I worked on was a lot of illustration work, so it was sort of easy. It wasn't it was definitely a like, it was a different process than it would have been had I been an actual character artist doing like modeling and stuff, because I have there's a different it's not lower pressure necessarily, but it's I don't have to like get things exactly right in exactly the same way that that everyone else is doing stuff, because as a character artist, as a modeler, you need to like the stuff you make needs to go into the game, right? And it needs to match all the other stuff that's already in the game. Whereas, I mean, illustration work needs to have the right style to fit Blizzard, but it's got, like, you can be there's a little more personality there. And there's a little more room for, like, latitude for other stuff. And there aren't like the same like technical, especially because so we work in 3ds Max, and a lot of people will join and be like, oh, I am more comfortable in Maya, and I've got to get used to that, and I've got to get used to like I'm more used to Maya or whatever, and then you've got to get used to working with the previewer and working with the tools that we've got and all that. So there's a lot more like technical things that you have to get through as a character artist compared to like the sort of thing that I started off doing. And even across Blizzard, like, I don't think many of the other teams use Max. I don't think we're the only one, but I think most of the rest of Blizzard uses Maya. So even then, like, we have people coming over from, because there has been a little bit more transfer. Like, we've had some people from Team 3, the Diablo team, working with us lately, just because we were in need of some assistance, so we've had a couple of people come over, and yeah, it's been a little bit of a challenge because they work in my generally. Oh, I hate this guy. Fuck. What's my favorite hero to play as? I really love playing Sergeant Hammer. If I had to choose one favorite, though I'm generally like a ranged assassin-y player, so I've played a lot of Jaina, a lot of Nova. More recently I've been playing a fair bit of Li Ming, and I really like Chromie, but I haven't been playing much lately, so but she's gonna be like my next focus. I've been trying to play Kerrigan lately. She's been fun but difficult. What's the process like for artists who want to change jobs? I mean, we have an internal mobility site or email things set up so that it is easier to move around. Like, as a, and it's not necessarily just, like, we try not to discourage it. Like, obviously we want people to stay on our team, right? We want people to be happy or whatever. But we'd prefer, if someone wants to like try something else, we prefer they stay at Blizzard than go try to find something else. So it's not like, I mean, you do exactly the same sort of art test and interview process than you would. It's not any easier really than applying in any other way. Like, you might get in, like, you'll be probably closer to the front of the list, but you won't get in just because you're already working there. Like, your work still has to be good. It's entirely like, if someone is wanting to do other stuff, they have to, I mean, there are different things, right? Like, it's, there are, like, a texture artist wanting to be an animator, there are definitely, like, technical hurdles there. Like, someone going from a texture artist to, like, doing more modeling is an easy jump, right? Because it's a very natural sort of thing, and you can sort of learn that on the job. Whereas going from texturing to animating, so I mean, like, environment team does, like, they cross over into animation for sure, because we have, like, animation in the environment and everything. So we have props and things that animate, and a lot of the time our animation team is busy, so the environment team will take on some of that stuff. And so there's definitely, and, like, talking about, like, effects animation and things, the character team will do some of that stuff for people. So I guess there are ways of, like, honing those skills a little bit. And I think our team is really good about, like, attempting to give people, if you express an interest in maybe learning something like that, giving you a little bit of time to sort of feel it out and stuff. There's not really a super specific process for that sort of thing. Will I ever do viewer games in HOTS? Probably not. Not that kind of stream, I guess. Not exactly. It wouldn't be a terrible thing, I guess, though I think I do have to go through, like, some training or whatever with Blizzard to be like, you're allowed to do that. Especially if it was like with viewers, I guess. So maybe I've already done like PR training and stuff. Who knows? One day maybe, and see how terrible I am. What is going on here? Alright. Just time. Alright, we're going. Alright. You're carrying it rank 1. Nice. Man, it's Hero League stressed me out, and I want to like get up there, especially now that we've announced like rewards for it, but man. And I mean, it's not even really that I've had bad experiences in it. I mean, I have a little bit, but not that much more than Quick Match. But it's just, I don't know. I feel like there's extra pressure. Yeah, I don't mind drafting. Though I'm a little, yeah, it just stresses me out. Maybe I don't have quite the, like, I don't have a huge breadth of heroes that I like to play, so I get a little nervous or like stressed when I'm like, oh shit, all the I'm supposed to play support, but all the supports that I'm like comfortable with or taking or whatever, it's like yeah, but I do need to play it a little more Hero League wise. And 1v1 should be like an arena map. Did that actually exist? Was that a StarCraft thing? I feel like I remember playing StarCraft micro maps. There was a micro map where you started off like, was that actually a thing? Where you started off with like your selection of units, and then you got, as you progressed and got more points, you got better units. But I feel like there was a mode where there was like a 1v1 thing where it would just dump you in that for a bit. I'm making it up. I don't remember. Pause is my go-to game because it doesn't stress you out. Left two shoes, that's awesome. It definitely doesn't stress me out as like normally, especially when I'm playing quick match. Like I really don't. It doesn't. Not much. It can sometimes, but it's really not too bad most of the time. Man, freaking StarCraft though. Oh my god, that was the most stressful friggin' thing. Am I tilting the canvas to looking at it, to look at it from another direction? Yes, that's basically exactly. Well, actually, no. Tilting the canvas is not to look at it from a different direction. Tilting the canvas is because it's easier to draw certain stroke angles. I find it easier to like draw certain shapes at a different angle, like a curve like this, like this sort of curve is really difficult to draw nicely. So a lot of the time I just like do this and then I can get a nice curve. Right, that looks like crap still, but you get the point. Like it's easier to draw it like down like that than up like this. So I'll rotate around just to get like the position where I can conveniently go whoop. So like I flip the canvas. So to actually check stuff, I do definitely flip the canvas quite a lot. You got addicted to the game because of Pajama Thur? That is amazing. I'm still amazed that skin even exists. Like, it was 100% just gonna be a... Well, actually, no, I don't remember. I feel like we probably wouldn't have put that much effort into it if we weren't planning to release it. But I'm continuously impressed at how well received it was. Or actually, no. It's not that surprising. You look at it and you're like, of course. Do I do studies outside of work, and how long do I spend at that? I do a bit, yeah. I don't spend as much time as I should on it, honestly. Bacon Boys, any tips on designing a character from scratch? God, that's a tough one. I think a lot of designing a character is about, it depends on what you mean by designing a character. If you mean designing a cool, like, a character who's interesting as a character, then a lot of it is, like, thinking about, like, what that person, I mean, and it goes for all the other example I'm going to give as well, but, like, trying to work out what it is that that character does, and where they live, and, like, how they interact with the world, like, the personality-wise. Like, think about those sort of things before you just start drawing, because a lot of the time that can help hugely in context, giving yourself context, even, not so much giving, like, the viewer context, but giving you a place to start. It's like, this person is the blacksmith. Are they a blacksmith? What sort of thing? Do they make military stuff? Do they make farming equipment? Do they work in a small town? Do they work in a big city? Like, what sort of, like, and then there's a whole lot of stuff around, like, trying to make something just cool as character design, which is like, I mean, there are a lot of characters where the brief is pretty much just make something cool, make this, but make it a cool, like, especially for sort of NPCs and enemies and things. It's not so much, but yeah, it's exactly the same thing. Like, where is this person? Like, if it's an enemy, like, what sort of enemy is it? Is it a monster? Is it a person doing something? Is it, what do they do when they're not standing around waiting for the character to come up and find them and attack them? Like, think about the world they're in, think about the environment they're in. I don't know. It's a very difficult thing to answer depending on the context in which you're designing a character, I guess. Mostly as a concept. I mean, yeah, like, it depends on, because I was about to say you're never designing character in a vacuum, but, and I guess, yeah, that's true, basically. Like, you're not gonna be, even if you're just doing it to be like, oh, this is a part of my portfolio, it's still, like, you still have to think about those things, because that's part of what makes a character, like, successful or not, is, can you look at them and see what they do, or are they just, like, generic, all these decisions have been made just because I thought it was cool, and I can't really tell what's going on here. So I think even if you're just designing a character for fun for yourself, like, these are things, especially because if you're the sort of person who's just designing characters, you're doing it because theoretically, if you're in this stream asking these questions, you're hoping to at some point be doing this in a professional setting, And in that case, you definitely will have a brief, and there will be these things that you'll be thinking about. And so it's important. It's probably important to like practice doing that to begin with. He's very pale, but he's not shiny. Do you have any advice for starting to make a portfolio as a concept artist? I think that goes to what I was just saying. Especially if you haven't done... hotkey for transparency lock, by the way, is /. It's good to know when you accidentally hit it and you're like, oh, what's going on? But yeah, don't just draw stuff that you think is cool. Cool is important. Like, people, it's gonna get you a fair way. But I think giving yourself a brief and doing something like I'm trying to work out like best way of saying this, because a lot of the time cool is basically gonna be it, but any time you get, like, if you're a concept artist and you've got a decent portfolio and you're almost always going to get an art test. Like, you're not just going to get hired, you're going to get an art test, and then you're going to have to, like, do that. So in that case, you're going to have to, yeah, giving yourself design. Thank you, Kid Rat. Don't just draw a bunch of stuff that you think is fun and put it in your folio. Like, give yourself briefs to work from, and actually Paul Richards has a great like little tutorial, not tutorial, like an exercise where is it? Somewhere, there we go. And it's a very, like, it's obviously a sci-fi type thing. Does he have a whole... there you go. Something like this. Working to a brief and designing something very specific is what concept art is all about. It's not just, hey, come up with something cool, because we sort of need something cool. We don't know what we want. If you scroll down to the bottom of that page, there's like basically a list of things you combine to and it's a little tongue-in-cheek, but it is like not a bad idea to start thinking like that. Even if you just use it to start off with, right? Like you're not getting judged on it, and a lot of the time people aren't going to specifically ask you, oh, what was the brief here? What are the art tests like at Blizzard? Well, yeah, there is a time limit. It's like it's not like here you have 2 hours to draw something. Usually you've got a couple of weeks to work through something. Like my art test was design. I think it was design a unit for each race in StarCraft, and I had a month to do it. So, and that was basically, it was a concept art, so that I didn't have to like model anything. Modelers art tests are usually more, there'll be like something specific, and lately we've been getting like, we'll do a few rounds of feedback within the art test, because how you react to feedback, like whether you can get, we're not necessarily expecting everyone to hit exactly the style right off the bat, but actually I don't know, I should check. I have not posted them up anywhere. I should ask. I'll check with legal to see, or not legal, I don't know, I'll check with Sammy to see if I can post the art test. So that was years and years ago now. I'm assuming they're probably not. Yeah, a month. I think it's usually a couple of weeks at least. Like, I think it might be quicker these days, but it's still a decent, like, Blizzard. I mean, I know Heroes has been, like, moving more quickly than us normally, but the Blizzard hiring process is still somewhat glacial. Even when we're in a position where we do sort of need artists. I only ended up doing one view of each character. I did 3 Zerg designs because I couldn't decide which one I wanted to choose. But I sent a lot, like I did. It wasn't super specific as to like, oh, you need to do an orthogonal thing. You need to like work it out like this. And like I said, we don't hire a lot of concept artists, so I'm not sure what that would be like, what an art test like that would be like. But like a 3D character artist art test is usually just like, we'll give you a character. It won't necessarily be like an exact concept. And it's usually, for a character art, it's usually a bust to do, get the style right. And then we do some rounds of feedback to see how you react to feedback, because even if you're not getting the style right, like, if you can take feedback well and adapt, then that's almost more important. We learn. It's funny. We actually learn more about like how you're gonna be as an employee, like an artist, a staff artist, as if we get the opportunity to give you feedback. If you hit it exactly the first time, like, that's great, obviously. But like knowing how you're going to react to feedback and whether you can take it well and whether you can adapt, and like how many rounds you need to get like what we're talking about is super important. So that can be good. So that's usually how that works. A concept artist and illustrator, technically different jobs. Yes, they are. I mean, technically, I'm a 3D artist. So that's that. Like, I didn't even know if Peter is a concept artist. Yes, I do both. I totally do both. And I do texturing, and I do UI. I think we're maybe a little more malleable than some of the other teams, but, like... They want you to apply more than once. Oh, no, I mean, rounds of feedback are not like you applying multiple times. It's like during the art test, you're encouraged to send in your like work in progress, and so you'll get feedback as you're going along, and that will sort of like how well you adjust to feedback. Any feedback that we give you is a big part of the art test. I mean, we don't discourage. Like, if we don't quite get it, we certainly don't discourage. Like, I know I was slightly anomaly getting in the way I did. If you apply, so this is not like, none of this is super official advice. Applying when there's not a position open is difficult. Like, you're not necessarily, like, HR are not gonna necessarily pass you along, so that isn't, like, you have to at least apply for something that's somewhat relevant. Though they will pass you along some of the time. But no, we certainly don't. We won't be like, oh, you applied and you weren't good enough last time, so we're not going to look at you. I mean, you do have to have improved. Like, don't just, like, the second, if you get a rejection, like, email or whatever, don't just immediately turn around and say, I'm going to reapply again, just in case, for the same position. But there's like multiple people across all of the teams have been like, oh, like I applied 3, 4, 5 times before I eventually got in. Like, it's not an unsurprising thing, and there's definitely no like stigma to say, oh, you got rejected the first time, you're not gonna get in this time. If you apply like 5 times in a row without like updating your resume or improving in any way, then maybe they'll stop passing you through. But if you take feedback, because I mean, it depends on in what part of the process you get to, and I'm not involved in the hiring process at all, so this is not to be taken as exactly like 100%. This is how it works all the time. But I know that as long as you get passed through to our team, I think we do try most of the time to give at least some feedback on your folio or whatever. Long story short, yes, there's no stigma for applying multiple times. Aside from being 9 a.m. for dailies, can you keep your own schedule? No one's... alright, so I'm not going to say no one. We very rarely have 9 a.m. meetings. My daily stand-ups are at 10:20. We have core hours, which is basically like, we're generous, like you can work it out which way either side you want to be there, but core hours I think are 10 to 4. And that depends. Like some teams will have, like I know design does earlier stand-ups, or whatever, and that depends exactly. But yeah, we're super. It's been super good. On the when I normally get to work about 9:20. Do you have any tips for getting highlights to feel right and look right? I think the biggest thing about getting highlights to look good is getting them consistent across, like making sure they're in the right spot. So if you think about, say like look at this like structure here. I'll do a bit of a demonstration. Like, so we've got a head, and then a shoulder, like a neck bit, shoulder, and then sort of pec goes down. You want to make sure that your highlights along these shapes are all in the right spot. So if my light is coming from this direction, so this is a sphere that the highlights on like this side. So you're casting a shadow, so your highlights here. You think, and this is the shoulder is almost a sphere, so it's on like this side. Whereas like, so you have light coming from this direction. It's like highlight down here. Like that is usually the way I think about it, and getting that consistent. And it depends, like knowing the sort of light source is super important too. Like if it's a bright light source, like bright single point light source, or a or it's like a diffuse soft like sky light or something, that makes a big difference. Stand-ups it's basically just you get together with all the people who are in your in the character team, and we talk about what we did that yesterday and what we're about to be working on. Super quick, but it's just like a catch-up thing. Getting edges right. They're either too soft or too hard. I feel like on the side of hard. Like I find what a lot of people do when they're first getting into digital art, or just even art in general, is things get muddy. Rendering gets muddy, edges get muddy, and sticking with a harder brush. Don't use much opacity. I use opacity on print pressure all the time, so it's like that, but I very rarely will change the opacity up here, and I think that makes it that makes you control, if you work in too low an opacity, you end up, things get muddy easier, and so muddiness is probably what you're talking about. Things are too soft. Be decisive, don't go over things too much. I think that's a big one. And not even going over to things too much, but try and get one edge. this sword is like here. It's like one edge. The edge of this leg all around here, like I'm being very almost graphic in the treatment of this like shadow. What quality of work do most studios look at for internships? I certainly can't speak for most studios, but I honestly can't even speak for, like, I don't know what level Blizzard generally looks at, especially for art internships. I know we don't do as many art internships as we do others, but at the same time, we definitely have a lot of, like, quite a few people on the art team that I work with who were interns at one point. So I'm not super confident in answering that probably. I mean, try your best, and that'll give you the best shot. Like, who on the art team used to be an intern? We have, there's a guy on the StarCraft team who used to be, who was an intern, who's actually started as an intern, I think the same day I interviewed. So I remember we rolled our like new hire start and my interview lunch into the same lunch, and then by the time I started work, he was like he had been hired on to continue after his internship. We have an animator who came in, Lana. We have at least one guy who interned on Team 3 on Diablo, and then was hired onto our team. And I know a couple of our producers as well. Bacon, good to see you. Alright, I think we're getting close to done. We've been going for more than 2 hours now, so probably... It was answered. Stand-ups are not very exciting. It's basically you get around with all the guys in your team and say what you're going to be working on that day, whether you finished what you were working on yesterday or whatever. It's, yeah, not something super dramatic. How did I screw that shadow up so badly? This goes doot 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 over the leg, and then I had it going. What the fuck? In Kappa, no worries. Well, we're almost done, so I guess I'll probably call it about here. I'm really not happy with this guy, but whatever. Ugh. Black Bramble, thank you very much. Man, 3A forum, I miss it. It was good times. Sort of sad because I didn't do that anymore, but yeah, it happens. Okay. Do I like it better this way or this way? Use the question. Alright. Okay. I'm not entirely sure how successful this round was, but thank you all so much for coming out. Yeah. It was good. do it again. Might do it again over the weekend. We'll see. But if not, it will certainly be next Wednesday. Yeah, thank you guys very much. I shall see you all later.